Hello, I'm Andi, and today I want to showcase how to play Spanish in Deathmatch. I think they are pretty interesting. You have pikemen, you have lancers, you have unction, and you also do have a decent economy, so they are pretty good and they are fun to play. So let's get into it and how to play them. So at first, before the game starts, there will be a moment where the game loads, and if you have, or you should bind your TC to a hotkey. And the first clicks, even before the game starts, you want to make a waypoint forward and click the hotkey for the militia and queue some villagers. Then, when the game starts, you also want to send your villagers to the side, and not your villager, to your explorer to the side. And yeah, so this is basically everything I do before the game even starts. When the game starts, I select 4 villagers and send them forward, and use 2 villagers to build churches and houses. I send 4 forward because I want to get a barracks as fast as I can, and we soon see why that's important with Spain. And yeah, so also this is the reason. So if you're building your TCs close to the church, what happens is your villagers will attempt to build a TC, which is not something you want them to do, and because it slows down everything. And yeah, as soon as the church is finished, this is something you should keep in mind. You want to get the mercantilism and train the missionaries. With the 4 villagers forward, you want at least 3 on the barracks and another one on the tower. And after that, you want to build artillery foundries, stables, Morax, etc. For the cards, we want to have the team Hidalgos or Hidalgos or whatever, and Liberation March. And with these 2 cards, you can insta-click trash units, so crossbows and pikemen in your racks. And right now, if he didn't start racks, he would just die to this push. So I always get around 20, and if I see I can, he didn't start with skirmishes and stuff, I produce more, but I always start with 20, and I just try to, like, worst case is I go raid, get some distraction in, kill some houses, and or I just go back and have some pikemen which I can use to defend against Kev. And best case is I just win after 2 minutes. So that is really something which can happen. I didn't pick a game where that happened because I think that would be lame. Because yeah, I want to also mention a bit the late game. So for cards after that, so you want to use the Hidalgos, the Liberation March, and the Stonemasons, so you get to 200 population pretty fast. Then we want to use the Spanish gold and the factories. I mean, you can also mix in what I did. I wanted to get the cannon out, so my fights at the start for my push has a lot more punch to it. That's why I sent this. Yeah, if you go full economy, just go for the factories. You go for the medicine, and yeah. What you also want to do is, which I will do soon, I will just make a lot of mills. You really only need mills with Spain, because with Spanish gold you get so much coin from the crates, and that helps. It's basically all the coin you need at the start, especially with the factories. Oftentimes I also switch my factories to food, so because I tend to run out sometimes. And yeah, now and then at some point you just build 5 mills and you put your TCs, the waypoint, on the mills, so they won't be idle. Okay, so enough about economy. Let's talk about how the game for Spanish typically looks like. So you want to have your missionaries at the front, They provide with Unction, they provide an attack bonus. So these skirmishers do have 35 attack compared to the German skirmishers which only have 26. Which is huge, of course. So these skirmishers will trade very well in almost all circumstances, except of course against Uhlans. For unit composition, so you can just go for skirmisher and dragoons really, and that should be good enough to, how do I say, that's a decent unit composition to just play the game with, and mix in some cannons. So he has some caverns already, so I will get some caverns too. And I also want to get some mortars, so I can deal with these towers here. And of course I also always want some horse artillery against this infantry. And if you see the opportunity, or if the enemy is going for a lot of ranged units, I think it often makes sense to mix in the lancers. Lancers are very powerful against infantry, and they are also very powerful against cannons, of course, and they can take a lot of damage from shots because they have a bit more range resist than comparable units, I think. So that's pretty good for them. Yeah, so lancers are also a decent unit to get, and if you feel like you're getting overwhelmed a lot by Uhlans or Milikav, you can always get some pikemen. You can still make them as a reaction, and you can also make Rodilleros. I think Rodilleros are overall the better unit to get, and I would only get the pikemen for, like, in an emergency situation. Like if I get swarmed here, I would get some pikemen just so my skirmishers don't die. And yeah. Also what makes sense is to put a Rex in your base, so you can, so if you're getting raided, you can just get some pikemen and defend it. Also what's always good is getting the trading post. This is good for all civilizations, but it's especially good also for Spain. You also want some walls so you don't get raided. And really the gameplay for Spain is to just overpower on a singular position, I think, because you have more powerful units than the enemy, generally speaking. He's playing very good with his cannons, so I struggle a lot to finish this game, even though I'm slightly ahead. And yeah. But let's speed this up a bit. I mean, yeah. For matchups, I think Spain, Germans is a bit difficult for Spain. I think they have better matchups than Germans. Generally speaking, I would rate them very high from the power level in Deathmatch. I think they are one of the best civilizations at the moment, just because you have a good rush, you have a decent boom, and you have a good late game in Deathmatch. So there's really not a weak phase for them. That's why I would put them on. I mean, they're not USA, which are by far the best civilization, but they are pretty close to them, I think. So they are definitely viable. Yeah. So here, now I kind of want to finish this game slowly. I cannot push here because he has too many towers, and his cannon micro was too good for me, to be honest. So I'm dealing with his TC, kill his villagers. In the meantime, I sacrifice a bit of my base for that, get a few more units. Let me see how much he has. still has a decent economy actually, which is quite surprising. Yeah, as I said, my micro wasn't on point in this game. And I also they overproduced crossbowmen. I don't think you should get that many crossbowmen and pikemen. It's such a bait to get them. They are so cheap and they are decent, but they are really not a great unit, I think. Here I was hoping I could finish the game, but then again, kind of cannot because the towers are too difficult to deal with. Yeah, but I think overall decent fight for me. Yeah, so for late game, now I think, so really what you should do with Spain, or what I thought at this point I should do, is I should get a good army composition. I thought at this moment I could just overpower him because I had a better economy and more points and stuff, so I thought I could just finish it with overpowering with pikemen and crossbows and stuff. But that didn't work out, so at this point I wanted, or I had to get a decent army composition with skirmishers, with dragoons, and so on. Yeah. I mean, let's just watch it at normal speed. I think it's a pretty decent game overall. I don't think I played it perfectly, but again, I think it's a decent game. Yeah. So at this point now I also sent my haciendas. I use them as estates for the moment because I don't have wood to build estates. So that's why I use them for the moment. In super late game you want to put some livestock on them and put your villagers on estates. But I wasn't there yet. Also ideally want to train cows, but I like in deathmatch I'm never able to do that because that would be after like 25 minutes or something where you would consider it, and I don't know. I feel like I never get to the cows with the hacienda. Yeah, at this point I should get a livestock pen. Oh, yeah, I already have. That's interesting. How can I build my livestock pen in this? Seems strange. Yeah. But now I'm getting skirmishers, I'm getting cannons, I have some rods because he tends to clean me up a lot with his ulans, and rods eat ulans alive. The only real downside with Rodeleros is that they tend to get picked up by skirmishers and you have to send them in front to block. So that's an issue oftentimes, that they get out-kited. Just speed up a bit. Oh no, let's fight again. I mean, that's exactly what usually happens is that with good micro he will just kite and goes back to his tower, and then you have to go forward with your rods against his cav, and it's more of a dance than a fight really. But I mean, that's the game. At this point I'm also getting some towers again, so I have something to fall back on. I also want to get some... Yeah, as I said, I want to get a real army composition with cannons, infantry, and yeah, skirmishers. He picks me up quite well. I think I should also get more missionaries. I don't know why I don't have more missionaries. It's also not a great place to build PCs, by the way. Because I picked them up here already. I think you should have just made them here, I think. Okay, so but once I get out my Caverns and my unit composition, then my unit composition is somewhat complete. I'm still not too... I mean the rods, they are good. Don't get me wrong. And I think I need them because with Dragoons I cannot hold him. So maybe it's a good decision. But it always just feels bad if you lose your rods to the skirmishers. At this point I'm hoping to finally get a good engagement with my cannons or with my caverns, which I didn't get at all. So I don't know how my 4 caverns could lose against this 3, but I guess that's just what happens. Other than that, I think that fight actually went decent for me. So he sent all his Ulans forward. They were fighting my rods, and rods are pretty decent against Ulans. And I still had my cannons alive. And they could shoot on the skirmishers. So all in all, that was decent. Not the best, but also not the worst. And slowly I should be able to win this, just because I made more eco damage. And I'm also not a huge fan of his pikemen. But I guess he's forced to, because he doesn't have much more coin. Yeah. It's also what's really annoying is what sometimes happens if you click your missionaries on a tower, they will just move in there, and that's typically not something you want to do. Eco's still a bit off. I should keep my population a bit more at 200. Then it would have been probably a lot easier game for me if I did that, because I'm oftentimes not fighting at 200 population. So this is also something you should always do in late game. You shouldn't, or throughout the game, you shouldn't bank resources as long as you're not popped. Or if you have resources, you should always try to stay at 200 pop, because if you're not at 200 population, your army is smaller and you just tend to not get good trades. And that's, yeah, basically why I struggled for such a long time to finish this game. I think his fights were just way better than mine in this game, to be honest. So yeah, micro is something which can be difficult with Spain, because the good anti-cav is melee infantry of them, and they tend to run at the front and get picked off by skirmishers. Yeah, but other than that, I think Spain, as I said, is one of the best civilizations in Deathmatch. They have a good economy, they have a good start, they can rush quite well. If you're playing against them, you should always be aware that there can be an infantry start, and so against Spain you should always start with skirmishers. If you're surprised, you can also always send the church card. So for example with Dutch or British, you can use the church card to defend the rush. Yeah, against Spain, still you want to build your base in your base, and you want to outlast them. I think they fall off a bit in the end. It takes quite some time until they fall off, because with Spanish gold they have a lot of choose. Yeah. That's how I would play against them. And I think he also made the right unit composition. Like the Ulan skirmisher is very good against Spain. And some cannons mixed in. just because you have to run in the front with your melee infantry, and then they get picked up by skirmishers, and that means you're trading well, and yeah, it's just very hard. I think you can dance quite a lot against this unit composition. So with this, I think I've said everything there is to say about Spain in Deathmatch. I hope you learned something, and I hope you have a good day, and see you guys around. Bye bye!